15. No, I'm 15. No, I'm 15. No, I'm 15.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Over. Man, finally, Marvel did it. You didn't pull a WandaVision on us with who's the villain, at the last second. You didn't pull a, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was guessing who's the power broker. You didn't pull a Black Widow on us with who's the villain in there too. The Taskmaster. Come on. I just got to say that Loki nailed it, man. They nailed it. This is your boy 7 Seas. Obviously, I'm talking about the episode 6 season finale for Loki. It was awesome, and Loki nailed it. They actually stuck to the Easter eggs that we were seeing throughout the show and gave us what we wanted to see, which is a variant of Kang the Conqueror. And it's so awesome, man. It was awesome to see Jonathan Majors finally join the MCU, and the way he played the character was amazing. I think at least that version of it. I'm super anxious to see what he does with the character moving forward. And it's probably an actor's dream because variants can be different, so he could act a bunch of different ways. So definitely looking forward to that. And one of the cooler openings so far too for Marvel is when we actually see the Marvel Studios intro showing up. We hear the Marvel characters and the Avengers voices kind of talking, which I thought was pretty awesome. And then I'm just gonna run through real quick recap of this episode because, man, there's so much going on and so much excitement, and like Marvel's back, man. I think this is probably the most excited I've been since Endgame for anything to materialize. I saw Black Widow last week. It was cool and everything, but I think again, like a lot of people think, it was a little too late. But this show, Loki, nailed it. Yeah. So we come back episode 6 and we see Loki and Sylvie enter the castle. And one thing that caught my eye was like you see the sands of time, so they're kind of like showing you where they are. And then the second they get in, Miss Minutes pops up and is like, "Oh, this is a citadel at the end of time." And she offers to make them a deal so that they can be the ones that control the TVA. And Loki and Sylvie kind of like can go back to the timeline, but they don't bite on the deal and they keep walking through the castle. At the same time, you see Ravonna show up going through some files that she's trying to download on her temporal pad. And, she says, Miss Minutes is like, "These are the files that you needed." And then she's like, "No, they're not, and like basically she's got to go, and says something like, he thinks these are the files you're going to want to see. So at this point, he is referring to, or He Who Remains is the name they give a character that we haven't yet met on this episode. But we go back to Loki and Sylvie, who are at the Citadel, and they enter into a large room, and an elevator opens up. And this is the first time Kang, which is played by Jonathan Majors, which is awesome, a reveal of what we wanted. I know I wanted that for sure. I wanted to see a new character. I didn't want to see a rehash of something else, and I thought that was awesome. And he's like super nonchalant, and he says something like, I think Loki and Sylvie are like, "Are you He Who Remains?" And he laughs and he's like, "Oh, she's still calling me that, huh?" And I think he's referring to Miss Minutes. And he's like, "Come with me, let's go to my office," in the elevator. And while they're on the elevator, Sylvie and Loki try to attack him, and he just kind of phases quickly, and they, he just laughs, and and they don't see him anymore, and they go up the elevator, and he's in the office, and he tells them, "Come sit down, let's have some tea and talk real quick." Obviously going to talk about what has led them to that point. And at the same time, like when Ravonna's going through the files and everything, Mobius walks in and tells her he's back, and basically the conversation that ensues is of how they've treated each other, and that's probably not the best way you're supposed to treat your friends. So it's kind of interesting that it led up to that point. And she basically is trying to talk to him about she's just doing what she thought was right and everything for the TVA. She's like going to call one of the hunters to come in, one of the Minutemen, and he's like, "That's not gonna work." And then you see kind of like a flash of B-15 in the year 2018, like in a high school, and a Minuteman shows up to get her, and she says, "Just wait, I have to talk to you. I want you to see something." And the second, she says that, Ravonna walks in the room, or a variant of Ravonna. And the Minuteman's like, what's going on? Like, he's confused. So B-15 and Mobius are trying to convert everyone at the TVA to let them know that they're variants. So that's what's happening there. And then, we go back to, this variant Kang, which they haven't really said the name, yet. But we know that's who he's playing in the MCU. And Loki and Sylvie are talking to him. And Kang basically tells them he already knows what's going to happen. And the only reason they found him is because he gave them the path to find him. It's such a cool exchange. There's a lot of different conversations that could have taken place, but the way that Jonathan Majors acted as that character, and conveying what is actually happening, so chill, nonchalant, because he already knows what's going to happen and he already knows what they're going to say, is really super cool to see. We go back to the TVA, and it's kind of a big moment because you can see Ravonna still kind of has some kind of feelings for Mobius. They're still talking, and Mobius kind of tells her, you really want to take away people's free will, and he's like, I can't let that happen. And then they kind of have a scuffle, and she throws him on the ground like he was going to try to prune her, and he's like, go ahead, you can prune me. It's like, it won't be the first time. And she just stops, and she decides to leave him behind through a portal, and she's going to try to start something new. It seems like to me like a new TVA, maybe. I'm not sure. But I think that's the last we see of Ravonna in this episode. And then we shoot back to Kang talking about why the TVA is needed and the multiverse war that he stopped by using Goliath. And also that, if they think he's bad, wait till they meet his variants. Which he explains to Loki and Sylvie that, the way that everything occurred, that he was a scientist from the 31st century. And, he discovered multiple universes stacked on top of each other. And his counterparts in those universes discovered the same thing at the same time. And that they were not all the same, not all wanting to be peaceful or scientific. Some of them were wanted to be conquerors and stuff. And, wanted war. And, he ended up ending that war the first time and creating the Sacred Timeline and the TVA. But Sylvie doesn't believe the Kang variant, she doesn't believe him. And Loki does. So then they start to fight, and she wants to kill him. And, Loki doesn't think it's a good idea. And she then throws Loki to the side, and, she goes to kill Kang. But Loki steps in front, and she's about to strike him down, and he tells her to stop because he doesn't want a throne, and he just wants her to be okay. And then they kiss, man. It was, a touching moment. And it genuinely seemed like a dope, sentimental moment. And she then pushes him away after the kiss and said she's not him, and pushes him through a portal, and he ends up back at the TVA. And then it's like, damn. So we then see Sylvie. She turns and stabs Kang, and he winks and says, see you soon, which is a ominous moment, I think, for this next phase in the MCU. And we see there's a bunch of timelines in the background branching out like crazy everywhere. And you shoot back to the TVA, and everyone's looking at the screens. Mobius tells B-15 there's no turning back now. And we see Loki, and he looks like he just failed, and he's sad. And then he just kind of has a moment, and he realizes something, and he gets up and runs, right? So he's running through the halls of the TVA, and he's just looking around, and then he ends up finding Mobius and B-15, and they have no idea who he is when he tells them about Kang coming. And he then sees a statue outside of the archives, and it's Kang the Conqueror statue. So that's the end of the episode, man. And this was a shorter episode. It was about 35 minutes, maybe after credits and all that stuff runs through. And yeah, man, I think they definitely stuck it. It finally gave us Marvel fans something we wanted to see, which was the next big bad. And I think we're just going to keep seeing, little traces of that moving forward. You kind of got a little bit of an origin of Kang in this MCU. And it didn't disappoint, man. I felt like I was not disappointed at all by the end of this series or this season, because Loki will return in season 2. So there's going to be another season of Loki, which is awesome, because I think they knew when they made this that this was a home run. They knocked it out of the park. And I cannot be more excited to see what comes next from this show and what comes next in the MCU, because I feel like my suspicions were confirmed that Loki is that jumping off point for what comes next, and we saw Kang, and yeah, could not be happier. And this was another quick hitter, everybody. Thanks again for listening to the No on 15 Allcast. Make sure to check us out on social media. We're at the No 15 Allcast on Twitter and Instagram, and also on Facebook. For everybody, thanks again. This is your boy 7Cs saying peace out and God bless.